Wars podcast. Thank you for listening.
Welcome back to the Mallrats podcast.
Hello, it's been a while.
From afar.
From afar? Like a galaxy far, far away?
No.
Well, first off, before Nolan shares why we're doing this from afar, we apologize for the sound quality of this. We do not have microphones. We are speaking into the laptop microphone. So we are ill-prepared equipment-wise, but we just have to get this one out there because we have got to get to watch the final. It's driving us nuts, and we want to talk about that, but we have so much, and I've rewatched this episode 2 more times. There's so many things to talk about from this episode that I really, really liked. So, Nolan, now that the apologies are over, why is this from afar? Where are we?
We're in a different continent. Yeah.
Do tell.
We're in Europe right now.
What are we doing in Europe?
We are traveling the countries.
Countries, specifically
The big stuff.
big stuff, but the whole premise of this trip was to hit certain types of places associated with a certain movie.
Star Wars.
Yeah. Question mark, or are you telling me? Question mark. Star Wars. So a few of the Star Wars locations we wanted to hit, fell apart because of various reasons. One of which Nolan wasn't going to be a part of, but I was going to go to Tunisia and see the Lars Homestead from A New Hope and some of the other desert, shots. But we did go to a very unique Star Wars location just last week. This is why we've been. Our excuse for this time isn't because we got behind in recording. It's because we just have been busy. So with this one, Nolan, tell us about this Star Wars location that we went on.
We went to Skellig Michael.
Skellig Michael, where is it? What is it? And why should they care?
Well, it's in Ireland. It's in Ireland. It's an island in Ireland. I don't know what part of Ireland.
West.
The western part of Ireland. And it's where they filmed the end of Force Awakens and part of The Last Jedi, because I think they went off to a soundstage
For a lot of the stuff. So the external shots, where Luke is approached by Rey, and then they train, and they climb up steps and all of that. That was shot on this island called Skellig Michael. And I set up a tour of this about 3 or 4 months ago. Well, a week before we got there, maybe even less than a week, I got an email that there was a slight rock slide on this particular mountain. And so it's closed to the public until the government officials can come out and assess the safety of, tourists walking all over this island, which is understandable. But the way the tone of the email was that, it was from the tour companies, and they said that pretty much the government's dragging their feet, and it doesn't look like we can walk on the island, which we were going to spend multiple hours walking the same steps Rey and Luke did. Look where Rey, used her lightsaber and practicing against that rock. The little huts, because there used to be a monastery. It was going to be amazing. Well, that didn't happen. So, Nolan, why don't you talk about what we actually did do and accomplish, and anything we did learn, maybe Star Wars related, from our tour guide.
Well, we got on a boat for around 45 minutes. Not round trip, it was like an hour and a half. We went out there and we just circled it, and we looked at all the parts of the island, like the steps where they docked, like where all the boats go.
They docked as in the crew when they showed up, or
any boat dock.
Any boat docks. Mm-hmm.
And where the current workers, government officials that live there, that stay on the island.
Yeah, they talked about, there were a few lighthouses that had been built in the last 100, 200 years.
We don't see those in Star Wars.
No, you don't see those in Star Wars. That's true. But, there is a life, and it's like a park rangers. I think the country of Ireland runs it. So there's always a human presence on this very remote island. But it used to be a monastery. And so some of the stories about the monks who lived in this very isolated, unforgiving location, they left about 1,000 years ago, 900 years ago. But when they were there, they were about 7 miles off coast. They would have to canoe out there. They'd have to take anything they want. People would come and trade with them so they could get more meat beyond just, the fish and the birds that are there. In the movie, the porgs are, very similar to the birds that are located all over this particular island. But the monks at one point, fought off a Viking invasion, and the Vikings felt it was, they struggled with fighting them and were in essence repelled, even though they did take a captive and starved them to death. So we learned about that. But it was just a very beautiful, huge. If you have no idea what we're talking about, look, fast forward to the end of Force Awakens, and it's gonna just take your breath away. It's beautiful. Or just do a search online of Skellig Michael. But it was wonderful, and I was so disappointed we couldn't get out and walk around. But that was our first Star Wars, stop on this journey. Now, next episode in a few days, we will be going to Lake Como, Italy. And what was shot in Lake Como, Italy?
Attack of the Clones.
At what portions of Attack of the Clones?
The part where he's playing sexy babysitter with Padme.
He being Anakin.
Anakin.
Yeah, it's her lake cottage on Naboo, supposedly. Lake Como, the only way I know about it is it showed up in, the Daniel Craig's, Casino Royale. He's getting recuperated by the lake. Or George Clooney hangs out there, but that's the only reason I've heard of it. Until, now past those movies, it's where they shot this. So we're going to go tour that location, and we'll talk more about that when we talk about the finale, which we're really excited for based on this particular part. So part 5 we're going to talk about. So you'll want to stay tuned and come back to hear, what we think about that. And maybe we'll get some pictures and audio from our time there. So any last thing you want to talk about Skellig at all?
No.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so here we go, part 5. Man, sorry for the echo. Again, we're in an apartment we're actually recording from Milan, Italy. And so it sounds a little, I've already apologized for sound, but we'll do the best we can with this. So just change it on your end or just bear with us, volume, intensity, etc. So, if you, Nolan, want to talk about part 5, as in maybe the first shots that stand out to you or your feelings, what stands out the most for this episode?
I think starting with a flashback to probably before Revenge of the Sith and going back to the Jedi Temple after, Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was cool.
It was nice to see Hayden.
Actually seeing.
This is the first time we're seeing him. We were talking about that in our other podcast because we were unsure if that's him even moving around in the suit sometimes. If it's just standing looking out the window, sure it can be him, but we don't hear him because it's going to be James Earl Jones. So the flashbacks, and my first gut reaction to that flashback scene was, one, that's how we predicted he would show up, but also it was really cool to see them. And you're right, it is the Attack of the Clones hairstyle with the ponytail.
Yes.
It's not the Revenge of the Sith or the Clone Wars animated, where it's more flowing down and he was wearing more blackish tunic type outfit.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely is the Attack of the Clone era. But I thought Hayden looked pretty good. There were a few times I thought early on, are they doing some face work on him?
Yeah, he looked like obviously old.
He's
like they were trying to make him young.
They tried, and it was a little off-putting, mainly because I know, okay, he's 20 years older. But as I rewatched the episodes, it didn't bother me as much, and I actually believed it was more authentic, if that makes sense. Maybe just seeing it over and over again.
I don't know.
Did it bother you at all?
Yes.
Could you get over that?
Not really.
No? What about Ben? Ewan McGregor. How did he look to you?
He looks okay. I mean, he hasn't really aged since prequels.
Well,
Disagree.
He has.
No, he hasn't
aged. Some of his stuff it wasn't. It was kind of cosmetically put on there. It maybe didn't look as authentic as it did in Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. But the aesthetics of it aside, it was really neat to see that Vader is, I don't know, troubled by the emergence of Ben, Obi-Wan, or he's just constantly thinking about him throughout this, maybe in preparation or study for their upcoming fight. what lessons can he learn from the past,
Mhm.
you know? But it was really neat. And each time there was one little thing that, Ben said to him over, something new each time, still trying to school him along the way. So the flashbacks were neat. Anything else jump out to you that was, you liked or didn't like?
The scene close to the end with Vader was pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Like the last 10 minutes.
The last, 10-ish minutes or so when he finally lands on, Jabim. Yeah. What do you talk a little bit about that? Why did it resonate so much with you?
Not really resonate. It was just cool.
Oh, okay.
It was like,
What did you like about it?
it was more like ruthless.
Ruthless, that's good, because you hear about Vader being ruthless, and the most ruthless you see chokes people out when they fail.
Yeah.
So one word, ruthless, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll go a little bit more than ruthless. That was my favorite Darth Vader scene in any of the stuff, obviously. I'd always wanted to see him. You see it in comics frame by frame or in books, but you've always heard how amazing Anakin was, and then so he's going to be an awesome Sith, but he's more man or machine now than man. So you wondered how that's going to be because Palpatine was disappointed in the fact because losing so many body parts since the Force is from the living being, it was Vader was never going to be as strong as he could have been as his apprentice. But that's why Rogue One was so awesome to me. That last scene where you see him just going down one hallway and using the Force, throwing people up, holding them against the ceiling, walking under them, and hitting them with the saber, using the Force for evil. Was amazing. And here I've seen it now 3 times, and each time by the end I'm like, this is awesome. She comes sneaking up on him and she swings and the blade stops and he didn't even flinch. You know what I mean? His spider sense was tingling, all of that. But the way that and if you go back and look, his fighting, he slows down her rotary blade without really moving and then grabs it and breaks it. And he's holding 2 sabers. He turns one off and throws it at her. Come on, kid. Just taunting, giving her shot. And when he says to her, did you think that I didn't recognize you, youngling? And it went back. And this was one of your great, yes, for me it's the Vader scene, but I loved the Reva and Ben Kenobi dialogue and their scenes. We can talk about that in a little bit. But Vader goes, he was wise to use you against me. Because she wasn't going to use Vader. She was going to do it all on her own. But fighting her, pulling the lightsaber away from her, using the Force to just, when he walks into that ship blasting off, without missing a stride, he just grabs it and stops it. Now, in the video game and the graphic novels, or the books, Force Unleashed, that one dark side character is able to pull a like a Star Destroyer down and crash and wreck using this Force ability. But I had never seen it before. And to see it thrusting and Vader's just holding it back, so powerful. Kenobi can barely push anybody away right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And to pull that down, and the moment it hits, he rips the sides of it off. I'm pretty sure I swore when I saw it the first time. It's holy, this is amazing. And I was just loved it. I love the entirety of the end, and I can't wait to see what happens with the finale, which, if you've already seen it, obviously you know and we don't, but I dug it immensely.
I have a question.
Yes.
So Yoda says size matters not, right?
Sure.
Is that according to the wielder or the target that they're using the Force on?
Well, he says size matters not. Judge me by my size, do you? That's when what was his name? Luke couldn't live the X-wing in Empire out of the swamp. I can't. It's too big. Judge, do you judge me by my size? And then he lifts it. So I think it's the person that the size matters not. It's the heart. It's the ability.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Okay. So anyways, Vader's stuff was awesome. I could watch that over and over again, using the Force, moving. He's very right-handed dominant, if you notice. He's never like two-handed or he just keeps power swinging, one-handed. But he was moving around. She was doing one. I thought this was her best episode. You still saw her ruthlessness. You don't know what I've done, but yet you see her heart when Ben figures out that you were a youngling. And that answers questions we've been asking for 4 episodes now, right? Why is she so angry at him? She says to him, "Why didn't you help us? Why didn't you save us?" Oh, it just killed me. Thinking about that little kid.
Did he sense a disturbance in the Force and just not do anything about it?
Kenobi? Well, he was off doing his own thing. Remember all the Jedi who were spread out amongst, Yoda's on Kashyyyk, Ayla Secura's on Felucia. They're all just spread out doing their stuff.
Buddha Pow, right?
Well, he was off fighting Grievous, right? So he was kind of busy and preoccupied. So, but she was a youngling. It's just, why weren't you here? Why didn't you protect me? She was a little kid. And when she said that she played dead, because when Vader stabs her here, you see it interspliced with him, Anakin stabbing at her. So I imagine he injured her and she played dead the first time. So this wasn't the first time she was hurt, which is very timely with, again, real world. We talked about post-traumatic stress among, in that first episode with, you saw the Clone Wars guy, or the second episode, asking for money and help. But the school shooting down in Uvalde, Texas, one of the girls that came out in a week or 2 after, she had played dead, covered in blood, in order to hide. And so to hear about this youngling, who in essence was a school massacre, led by Anakin, that's what it was. It's just like the Death Star explosion; those were terrorist attacks, taking down the government. It was just really powerful to me at that particular point. So Vader was amazing. What do you think about the Reva revelations with Obi-Wan? Talk about that.
I found it kind of weird they started to work together. I think I just think that was a little weird in the story, that it was oh, we both hate Vader, let's gang on him. But I think it was cool that she was this whole time sucking up just so she could kill him later.
And I've always said to friends and family, you have to have a good villain to make something great. And I was kind of on the fence with her, even though we just had a lot of questions. We did not know what her motivation was. We figured out a little bit last episode that, okay, she hates Kenobi enough because that's what's going to bring her to become Grand Inquisitor. That's what's going to get her close to Vader. But here we find out why she was so upset about, in addition to that, but also, with Ben Kenobi wanting, where were you? Why didn't you help us? But once you have a motivation for her, it's so appealing. And she rejects his help. When they're talking through the door, she doesn't need it. You don't know what I've done. And he figures it out. How did you know? Why did you call Anakin? He wouldn't have told you this. And it's the stuff we've talked about. How did she find out? Right? And so she rejected him until he surrendered, and to her. And she goes, "You're going to die soon. He's coming for you. I'm bringing him to me." He goes, "No, you're not bringing him to me." And this was I'm bringing him to you. And you just see the light bulb go off. And that's where she starts to, he goes, this is it. He's going to be so focused on me. What if you think we'll be able to sneak up? Yeah, because he's going to be so focused on me. I think Ewan McGregor, and you can mark this down at 19 minutes into our podcast or whatever, he should get an Emmy nomination. Now, while he doesn't have crazy monologues or great, lines of exposition to spout, and steal scenes, the emoting that he has with just his eyes, especially this scene, and I've talked about it throughout the episode, but this scene with her, he's on his knees, okay, just like, I'm bringing him to you. I've never seen him this cold and calculated before. Did you have any feelings at all about Kenobi in this particular stuff?
I mean, it's kind of a different character that he played from the prequels. It's not all weird and reckless or trying to be funny. It's I don't know, a survivor of a war or something.
A survivor of a war, and he knows that he has a job to do in order to save all those people.
Yeah.
Because he's got to kill time, and Vader's just coming for him. He can't have other people die just because of him. And I just remember watching this episode, and that's what I love about Star Wars is when there are really memorable moments. I can remember where I was and just the revelations as the waves of understanding wash over me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is, you know what I mean? Moments that just resonate. And it was the Reva scenes with Ben, and then Vader in her fight. And Rogue One has easily been my favorite Vader thing ever, but this one I think just shows how you can fight with the dark side, and it's almost like, how can anybody beat him? Now she didn't take a swipe down at the Grand Inquisitor. Why not just put the nozzle up? Just, you don't even have to swing hard. Just walk up and push the button, and it gets them.
I don't understand. Like she loses her weapon or whatever. Like if he throws it away or something, can't you just
use the force and grab it? And he pulls it back. He gives it to her. He just does all of these things. She comes at him, and he uses the force to stop. It was beautiful choreography. And I think that she did a great job because she's down for the count. Grand Inquisitor, the first one, comes back, and what does he say? Something like, revenge does wonders for the healing, for the will to live. So she's gonna live because she finds that communicator,
and he's gonna live for Rebels.
And because we were wondering, you can't kill him, right? So he's coming back so he can be a part of the Rebels canon. But the communicator, talk about the communicator.
That was so dumb.
Yeah, why?
Well, Bail Organa was like upset that Kenobi wasn't talking to him about like updates.
Well, upset. He was worried, right?
Yeah, sure. And so he's all, if I don't hear from you in a little bit, I'm gonna go see the other kid on Tatooine. The boy, I'll be there. Like, they're supposed to be secret, and it's not supposed to know that there's two of them.
Across open communications, right?
Yeah, they could have intercepted it.
So he said Tatooine boy. He also said Owen.
Yeah.
And then when Camille Nanjiani showed up, we thought that was going to be a one and done, right? You did well. I hoped he wouldn't be that, but it was great to see him show up, and he still drew humor right from the beginning. Goes, when you left, I fought that female Inquisitor, and now I'm wanted. Now I know what it is to be a real Jedi. Plus, there's a lot of great opportunities around here.
Yeah.
So he was great. Almost every line out of his mouth, I'm always chuckling. But little Leia is resourceful. She saves the day and helps.
She doesn't have a lot of scenes in this one.
No, and that's fine though.
Yeah,
she's okay just one little action of volunteering to go, into the vents. That was helpful. She finds Lola all red-eyed until she takes off the restraining bolt. Tala, talk about Tala. Did you like? I thought she kind of had a nice redemption there.
Redemption from what?
Well, her story, her whole backstory as to why she's helping them now.
Yeah. Well, she died in this episode.
Very much so. Did she need to die?
No.
Well, she took a blaster to the stomach.
Yeah,
we've seen two people with lightsabers.
After she gets shot, she has to die.
Okay.
But before that, she didn't need to die in this episode. She didn't need to die ever. She wasn't that big of a character.
She wasn't that big, but did you have any feelings about her backstory a little bit?
Not really.
No, it brought a little bit. Again, you find motivation. Like, okay, why are you a rebel? Why are you a traitor to your empire? And when they talk about lining up 14 people and executing them, and 6 of them were kids. I think it was 6 or 8, whatever it was. And she was gutted by that. And so now she keeps those little tally marks inside of her holster for every person she saves.
Mm-hmm.
And so her sacrifice here is allowing them the opportunity to get loaded up in that ship and take off, because that's it, right? They're gone. You had her sweet moment with the droid who sacrificed himself.
With the loader droid.
The loader droid, that they were close, I guess. We didn't get much time with him, but he kind of had a K2SO from Obi-Wan moment. But his dying breath, if you want to call it that, was just crouching and slumping over and just protecting her. So she pulls out a thermal detonator, and I think you and I had both the same reaction. Why don't you Throw it. Throw it down the hallway at them, not keep it at your end. And I don't know.
It's okay. Because
It's okay because Vader's going to come and have an awesome scene. So, but I really, really, really enjoyed and dug the end of it. Then oh my gosh, and then the last shot of her, Reva, going over to that communicator and it's damaged, and she looks at it, hears it, and then you see Ben out there in space hearing from Roken that the hyperdrive is damaged, we can't go anywhere, and he's like, I feel something's happened. And then he's really concerned. And I can't wait for this last episode. So, any last little bits here?